So we say to the men, the worst thing that you can do is to be violent against a woman. And that men must respect all women. And then we say that to the boys. But then we say to the girls, in the same way that we say to you that you must respect all women, we say to the girls, you must respect yourself.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because you never get
to be treated with respect, you have to be acting like...
No, well, it's not conditional.
Okay, okay.
Because even if a woman does not respect herself, of course,
okay.
that does not mean that, you know, she
deserves disrespect.
Right, or should be blamed for being disrespectful.
Good morning, welcome to another episode of the Random Podcast. My co-host is not here, he has a meeting this morning. However, we decided to make up with an extra special guest, right? Some may know him as Brother Dr. David Mohammed. I know him as a respectable man. He helped me with something personal in my life that I'm not sure if he even know he helped me with. This is none other than Dr. David Mohammed. He's with us today. Mr. Mohammed, good day, sir.
Greetings.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Pleasure to be on.
Pleasure to have you, for sure, for sure, for sure. Before we get into anything deep, who were you as a child? Who was young 12-year-old, not Mr. Mohammed, who's young 12-year-old Mohammed?
Well, I was born in England to Trinidad parents. Came back here when I was 8 years old, went to Trinity College. When I was 12 years old, I just started what might have been my career. I started playing guitar at age 12. Yeah, I was already taking piano lessons. And I was at Trinity College, very heavily into music, into sports. And I think I would have gone off in a direction of music if I didn't become acquainted with this black knowledge. And of course I'm still very inspired.
What genre you feel you might have been into?
Some kind of fusion.
Mixed with
yeah, because I mean I was inspired by Jimi Hendrix. But I also admire the music of Prince, Stevie Wonder, and probably the most underrated artist ever, Terence Trent D'Arby.
Yeah, he's so underrated, I'm not sure who he is, but I will definitely look at him.
Well, Terence Trent D'Arby in 1987 was a global sensation, you know, he had some popular songs.
And big like Prince, they will say?
In 1987, yeah, Sign Your Name and Wishing Well were big songs that he had. But the thing with him is, he started bringing out all these albums. I mean, like every 2 years from 1987 up to this year. And albums with like 20, 30 tracks on them. So a lot of it got lost anyway. Even Prince, you know, Prince album was released a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, a postmortem album you dropped?
Yeah, posthumous album. But that was it was recorded in 2010. It wasn't recorded just before he passed. And, you know, I mean, he has literally, he did 38 studio albums.
Prince?
Yeah, and out of those 38 studio albums, I think about 3 of them were triple albums.
Oh, you're right.
And about 8 of them were double albums.
Well, what I know about Prince is that he was big on independence.
Yeah.
Right? Speaking about independence, right? So, so when he was young, he was into music, he looked up to Jimi Hendrix, Prince and whatnot. What transition you into being into music, into this man that you are right now? You say the Black Studies. Is it that a book you stumbled across? Is it somebody that inspired you to go this direction? What was it?
Well, I would have become conscious around the mid-1980s. And in listening to hip-hop, KRS-One, and Ice Cube in particular, Public Enemy also.
Of course, I know.
You know, getting into that music, it would have kind of reawakened the consciousness. But when I went back to England, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I was very inspired by that. But in reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, I became more interested in Malcolm X's teacher, who was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in the autobiography of Malcolm X, chapters 12, 13, and 14, spoke about this great organization that Malcolm X was a part of, the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
And I became more interested in that. And the whole question of Elijah Muhammad and who he was, how he was able to teach and transform. No, you could just open it on. You're supposed to get the idea of what's going on. Yeah. And so in listening to some of the speeches by Malcolm X and hearing him speaking about his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that inspired me to find out more about the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
And then I began attending lectures in London, joined the movement, and then eventually brought it back to Trinidad.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
You remember, like, when you read about tribes or you know, watch certain documentaries, to be a man, you will have a certain ritual to do. Some people may have to, let me just pull something out of the atmosphere. Some people may have to fight with a lion, hypothetically
Rites
speaking.
of passage, yeah.
Right. And this modern day living, what you think makes a man in this modern day life? What do you think is the ritual that changes a boy into a man?
That is such an excellent question.
All right.
Yeah. Well, no, just trust me. That is.
It's a heavy question.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing, and we have to be cautious of not responding to new 21st century redefinitions of what they think masculinity is.
Yeah, because things definitely change.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say, to be totally honest with you, respect for women, a proper understanding of the purpose of marriage, and eventually land ownership. Land is the basis of independence. A man by nature, as taught in the Holy Quran, as a Muslim, I am taught that men are the providers, protectors, and maintainers of women.
Of course.
And therefore, I have a responsibility to manage and oversee a reality.
Manage, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Manage for my wife, for my children, for my family, but also to establish a legacy of continuity for the next generation, because there's an African proverb that says it takes an entire village to raise a child. And so every single adult within the community must accept some degree of responsibility in participating in the preparation and training of those youth who are coming up. That is a major objective behind why we built this center. For the young people, we currently have a series of lessons programs taking place. We offer free CXE, CSEC subjects for the young people.
That will be at the same community institution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right now they're online, but we're open to go back into in-person classes, which is one of our major achievements.
Okay, right.
I mean, now, so just as an example, Tuesday coming is my birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, which is Marcus Garvey Day. Thank you. And last year was my big year.
By a number?
Yeah, last year was a big year. But I remember for my 40th birthday, those years ago, putting a post on social media expressing gratitude for surviving to age 40. Because Malcolm X was assassinated at age 39. Martin Luther King was assassinated at age 39. And in the Holy Quran, in speaking of Moses, it said when he got to the age of 40 that he arrived at maturity. And some of the places that I've been, some of the things that I've seen, and the amount of people that I know who have died.
Right, didn't make it at that age.
And I was in the same places that they were at.
So you were studying.
You know, so it's a gift to have made it to the age of 40. And now to add 10 more years onto that.
Okay, it's a blessing.
I know it doesn't look that way. Yeah,
no,
and the people
actually,
looking will probably think this is camera tricks.
No,
what filters
he has
you've
more
used.
hair than me. He has a more intact hairline, so yeah, we can have that.
Right, thanks for that.
Yeah, it's this young man, right?
But that is a true gift and a true blessing.
Yes, it is.
So going back to this idea of rites of passage,
right.
We have adopted a culture where we disrespect women.
True.
And we have a romanticized Western hemispheric version of what marriage means. Marriage is not romance.
We need to lean back with us. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Marriage is not for the individual pleasures of the two partners who have joined together in a sacred union. But marriage is for an extended purpose. This is why in the Holy Quran, in Surah 4, Allah says that men and women have rights over each other. And within these rights are responsibilities. And those responsibilities are intergenerational. Because when I'm thinking about marriage, I also have to be thinking about children and inheritance. Dividing whatever wealth is left back with the vision in mind that eventually in the future we're going to establish some kind of model community or society that begins with the vision of the parents and the grandparents.
Can I just interject a little bit? As a young person living in this society, we, in our mind, just like how you think it was a blessing to live at 40, we think it's a blessing to live at 20-something. Mm-hmm. So therefore, how could we think that deep about a female and marriage and generations? You understand? So it's a constant battle between the two.
Let me tell you something. When I was going to Trinity College, I remember one day a group of us went to family planning on Charlotte Street. Okay. You think we were interested in planning any family?
No.
Right. Yeah. We got bags. I'm not exaggerating.
Snacks or?
No.
Oh. Sorry, my bad.
We had bags of condoms.
Oh yeah, family planning.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Bags of condoms. Now, that's family planning for us?
No.
Family planning for us is limiting the family. Family planning for us is denying, destroying, and diminishing the family.
Okay, I got you.
But family planning for the wealthy, powerful elites is that, okay,
a generational plan.
Man and woman going to get married. Or let's say we're siblings, 2 brothers. You have 4 children, I have 4 children. One of your children is going to be a doctor, one is going to be a lawyer, one is going to be a scientist, one is going to be a politician. My 4 children, one is going to be in national security, one is going to be a business entrepreneur, one is going to sell land, and the other is going to be an architect. And then each of those 8 children together have another 3 children each. They make sure that they go into business, health, law, economics, science, and that they cover every single department of social life in societies. And even those who go into business, they're going to make sure they go into wholesale, into retail, into food production, agriculture, farming, animal husbandry, as well as hardware stores, auto mechanics. And that is family planning for the powerful, wealthy, influential.
Right. But when it comes to us, it's a bag of...
Right, and part of their family planning, as you put it, and part of their family planning is planning to employ our children. And have us end up working for minimum wage. And then now our consciousness has been so stunted that we celebrate the minimum wage employment that we get. While they would not dream of any of their children ever working for minimum wage. So if we can think of family, young brothers getting into relationships. Okay, I know this is a much bigger subject than we could ever give it justice to, but I mean, I got married at age 22. I celebrated my 28th wedding anniversary on Monday.
Okay, congrats. Right.
Now, in so doing...
My longest relationship was 3 months. I just need to say something pertaining to that. But go ahead, yeah.
Okay. You could edit this after, right?
I'm not proud at all. Yeah.
All right. We need to talk. We'll talk again. We need to come back on another time when, you know. But that doesn't mean that there were not the same difficulties and challenges and obstacles in my 28-year marriage as there would have been in, say, a 3-month relationship.
Right.
You know, not necessarily talking about you.
Of course not. Yeah.
Right. But those same challenges were there. The difference would be the priorities.
Right.
And so our youngest, when I speak to school students, and this is something that I really miss, when I speak to school audiences, I would say to the men, the worst thing that you can do is to be violent against a woman, right? And we, as Muslims, we're not violent people, but one thing we believe in is punishing men who are violent towards women. We believe in that.
I've heard about giving strokes to people who've been unjust to women,
But it's, we have a passion about that. So we say to the men, the worst thing that you can do is to be violent against a woman. And that men must respect all women. And then we say that to the boys. But then we say to the girls, in the same way that we say to you that you must respect all women, we say to the girls, you must respect yourself.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because you never get
to be treated with respect, you have to be acting like...
No, well, it's not conditional.
Okay, okay.
Because even if a woman does not respect herself, of course,
okay.
that does not mean that, you know, she
deserves disrespect.
Right, or should be blamed for being disrespectful.
Disrespecting
a woman never gets a second chance to create a first impression.
Wow.
And the woman has value. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said 75% of his teaching was for the black woman. 25% was for the black man.
I learned something today.
Because when you educate a man, you educate an individual, but when you educate a woman, you educate an entire nation, because the mother is the first teacher of the children. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that you judge the standard of civilization of a society by its treatment of women, how it treats women. Not the tall buildings or how much money is in the treasury or the highways or the roads. No, you look at the condition of the woman. That determines how civilized the society is. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, you judge the goodness of a man by how kind he is in his treatment towards women. And the Prophet also said that heaven lies at the foot of mother. Lying at the foot of means being in service to. One of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, asked him, who should be the best friend of a believer in God after God and his messenger? And the Prophet said, it should be your mother. Then the companion asked the Prophet, and then who after your mother? And then the Prophet said again, your mother. And then the companion asked, and who third after that? And the Prophet said a third time, your mother, and then your father. So respect for women, and also the appreciation for the value of the woman. Minister Farrakhan said the womb of the black woman is the workshop of God to reproduce his own image and likeness. The Bible says in Genesis, God made man in his own image and likeness. And Surah 15 verse 26 in the Quran says that Allah created Adam from black mud fashioned into shape. Right. So the first human being was an African. And then the way that an African is reproduced is through the womb of a black woman. And then God said he made man in his own image and likeness. So that means that African people have a natural spirituality. We have a genetic connection to the creator of the heavens and the earth, who had an image of what he would look like. And then he made it in physical form, which is us. But none of that is possible without the agency of the woman. So how is it now? And this is evidence of how we as a people have been defeated. We are the only people who degrade, disrespect, and objectify our women in our presence publicly for entertainment purposes.
Somebody said on a documentary that we call our cars beautiful, but we call our women strong. And I find that one statement is all that.
Well, it's all in the whole idea of objectification, that the woman is seen as a commodity, as an object. And, you know, I mean, naturally there'll be conflict in relationships, But the thing is, again, as a Muslim, you know, when it comes to conflict in male-female relationships, Surah 58 in the Quran is entitled The Pleading Woman. Surah 60 is entitled The Woman Examined. And Surah 58 says, to the woman who complains about her husband, God hears and empathizes with her complaint. So this is the perspective of a Muslim, that God is naturally compassionate to the woman in a case of conflict between male and female. But when it comes to the man, Allah says in Surah 4, which is entitled The Woman, that there may be something about her that you dislike. But it may be that Allah made her that way for your benefit. So husband and wife could be in conflict. The wife drives the husband straight up the wall, and when she's finished, drive him right back down the wall.
Right.
So the woman will go to God and complain,
Right.
and God tells her, I hear you.
Right.
I understand. I sympathize with you. But when the man goes to Allah to complain,
to learn from that.
exactly. So Allah tells the man, but that same thing that you're complaining about, it may be that Allah has placed some good in that for you.
Balance off yourself or whatnot.
But then the man wants to violently react to the woman, and he only does so because he's not completely a man. When a man is violent against a woman, he exposes a void or a vacuum in his masculinity, of which part is missing, and he's trying to compensate for it by hyper-masculine behaviors in being violent towards women.
Mr. Mohammed, listen, I asked one question, and you're so, what's it what I'm looking for? You're so well explained that you take away like 7 more points already. Because they don't explain black families, the importance of marriage. You don't tell me you need to talk to me from a 3-month relationship.
Yeah,
so
that'll be another day though, not in the presence
of course, yes. Yeah. We don't cover a whole set of things, and this is what I like about it, right? But here the question that this raised, right? A man like you who well-versed, well-educated, well everything, you'll be labeled as conspiracy theorists. Everything that you say is a conspiracy. How will that affect your thinking? Because that is, to me, a tool used to take away the value from what these type of people are saying and just label them conspiracy theorists. So when you educate yourself, come up with your speech that you want to say on the internet, and then somebody just say, yeah, he's a conspiracy theorist, how that make you feel?
Well, I'll challenge them to identify exactly what theory that we've shared sounds like it's
Not
out
valid.
of a conspiracy. But let me make a point about that. Because me personally, as a lecturer in the universities, as a teacher, and as someone who is referenced for information, I am always very mindful about what I say, and I know that there are certain things that I may know for a fact are true, but I would not share them in specific forums because the reference might not be immediately available.
Okay.
So let's say, for example,
yeah.
okay, so let me give you 4 examples. 1, these general statements. First case is a medical genocide where the white Americans trying to kill the Native American Indians to take their land. They deliberately infected blankets with smallpox, gave them as gifts to the Native American Indians in winter to keep them warm, killed them by the tens of thousands, then stole their land.
There's the Aboriginal people.
Yeah. 2, 1932. The United States government deliberately infected 100 black men with syphilis from 1932, denied them treatment for 40 years to 1972, and most of them died. The government of America induced death through their health department on 100 black men. 3, 1978, Center for Disease Control deliberately infected homosexuals in America with AIDS. And 4, the World Health Organization deliberately infected Africans. Let me put deliberately in brackets, but the World Health Organization infected millions of Africans with AIDS in a smallpox vaccination campaign from 1966 to 1977. Now, there are a whole lot more things like that I can tell you. But those are the four that I would share in a discourse, say, if we're talking about COVID-19 vaccines and vaccine hesitancy or reluctance or caution. Now, the reason I bring up those four is because those are four cases that they themselves admitted that they did.
Right, so therefore, in those examples, it would not be a conspiracy theorist because they can
absolutely not.
They confessed it.
Right, Freedom of Information Act, presidential apology, statements from the World Health Organization. They have admitted, yes, we did this. So these four cases, 1766, medical genocide against the Native American Indians. 1932, 100 black men deliberately infected with syphilis by the United States government, denied treatment for 40 years. 1978, homosexuals in America in 6 different cities in 2 phases of hepatitis B vaccines were given AIDS. And 1966 and 1977, World Health Organization smallpox vaccination campaign in Africa spread AIDS to millions of people simultaneously. Each of those cases have been either admitted to or confessed by the United States government or the World Health Organization, and the references are there from them.
Right. So nobody can say you making up this information.
Absolutely not. So President Bill Clinton in 1997 issued a presidential apology on behalf of the United States government to the 100 black men who were deliberately infected with syphilis. There were only 4 survivors at the time, but that's on record that they did that. And there are so many other cases like that.
Before we get too deep, I just have a question to ask you. Look at society now, look at the life that we are forced to live right now. I'm not just going to ask you what does it take on the vaccine, but I'm going to ask you this. What does it take on the marketing agenda behind the vaccine right now? What you think about how they're doing it, not what they're doing?
Right. Well, I think how they're going about trying to encourage the general populations to take the vaccine within itself raises red flags. If, like in other cases, they had simply appealed to the public, gave information, and requested that people come and take the vaccine, I think they may have had more cooperation. But by the fact that you're bullying, coercing, forcing, and threatening people's jobs and livelihoods to take this vaccine, and outlining all of these consequences, then that within itself raises a lot of concerns. The last time, at least as far as my memory is concerned, the last letter that I've written with my handwriting, would have been 2004 to the University of the West Indies when I was accepted to do a bachelor degree in education. I wrote a 2 or 3 page letter in handwriting. This is the last time I recall ever writing a whole letter in handwriting, explaining to them why I'm not taking the vaccines that were required to enter the university. This is 2004. It was a simple process. I wrote the letter. I said I don't want to take vaccines. Today I have a double major and a PhD. So it was never a problem, it was never an issue. But I do feel some twitching every now and then, but you know, but I'm good. I'm good. I made it here today.
Right. Most important.
So that was not so much of a sensationalized issue back then. But now, and I mean, to see the violent reactions as well, the protests in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in Guyana, in Barbados, in Grenada, and also in Antigua over the last couple of weeks or so, have said a lot. I mean, the beloved brother, Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves.
Do you agree with what you're going to say that happened to him, or do you disagree?
I consider him to be my friend, and I condemn in the strongest manner the violent acts against him. But having said that, I think that one of the reasons that we're seeing these kinds of violent reactions is because of the censorship and silencing of the voices who are trying to have their say in representation of their own human rights and civil rights. If I am standing up for justice and you're telling me sit down and shut up, then you have declared some degree of ideological warfare against me and my right as a citizen.
Okay.
And I think that that is part of the reactions that we're seeing right now. And black people in particular are justified, regardless of what, to be cautious at least, or at least ask some questions about taking a vaccine.
We have plenty of examples in the past of why we can't.
We have too much examples.
Trust blindly.
There's too much history behind that. You know, and you know, and I'm offended when I hear, say, a minister of health calling those concerns based on conspiracy theories.
Right.
That is absolutely outrageous. So I just hope that our brother Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, I hope it doesn't change him, because he is, he is more of a people person than a lot of other prime ministers. I think there are a lot of prime ministers in the Caribbean who would not walk openly into a crowd that is protesting against their policy, but he did that. That's how he is. He has an open door policy at his office. Anyone could walk in off the street.
I never watch it from this side.
Yeah, so I really hope, you know, I really hope it doesn't change him.
I agree with you too. People worried about the vaccine, people worry about dying, people worry about which one is the right thing to take. I worry about a war between vaccinated and non-vaccinated people. I worry about my friends not speaking to me based on my choices. I worry about me having to watch my friend based on a choice. I worry about the people aspect of the decision to be vaccinated or unvaccinated. Do you see something brewing, or do you not? Do you think it will unravel calmly? What was your thought on that?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on our reactions and responses as citizens and how we treasure our own freedom. If we as a people remain very sensitive to any kind of imposition or restriction on our human rights and civil rights, then I think we can keep rulers in check. There's a United Nations convention called the ICCPR, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which was established in 1966 after the Nuremberg trials, where they looked at the Holocaust against the Jewish people, and the objective was to put measures in place to protect the civil liberties of all persons based on what happened to the Jews. And the ICCPR by the United Nations says that no government has the right to subject its citizens to medical or scientific treatment or experiment against their will. It does say that in a state of emergency, that exceptions can be made to the constitutional rights of a citizen. However, even in a state of emergency, there are certain rights that a human being has that you cannot touch regardless. Among those rights are freedom from torture and slavery, freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, freedom of religion, the right to personhood and identity, and the right to not be forced into medical experiment and treatment. So even if there is a public health crisis, medical emergency, even an alien invasion from out of space, you cannot force citizens into medical treatment against their will. And just about all of the countries in the English-speaking Caribbean have signed on to that treaty. Trinidad and Tobago signed in December 1978, and it was ratified and brought into effect in March 1979.
Yeah, I just learned that there, right?
Yeah, and all across the Caribbean, the latest to sign was Antigua, which was just like about 3 years ago. But that has been on the books in Trinidad and Tobago for however long. So an unscrupulous employer might think that he can threaten or terrify someone into taking a vaccine. But if it is pursued, if it's taken to the industrial court, or by extension if it were to get to any kind of international forum on law, CCJ or Privy Council, anything like that, I doubt the law will be in the favor of the employer.
Mr. Mohammed, or Dr. Mohammed or Dr. Mr. Mohammed. I want to just thanks for your information. I want to thank for your time. But before we leave, we need a part two of this because it just overflowing with information. It can be contained in one episode. But before you leave, how do you as a grown man feel to go inside 9 o'clock for about all these months right now? How are you feeling as a big person?
Well, you're assuming that I go into my house at 9 o'clock.
Oh, yes, I am assuming. Yes, good point. I am assuming you're like me and the average man.
But, no, I mean...
Just now, how do you feel watching other people go inside at 9 o'clock who are adults?
Well, now you're assuming that I'm outside of my house at 9 o'clock because the only way that I could see them going into their house after 9 is if I'm out of mine.
Right.
You could be straightforward and ask me.
How do you feel about the curfew right now, extending
Well,
so long?
outcoming, it is, in my view, unnecessary. I don't know how that would reduce the spread of COVID-19. I mean, I heard a couple of scientists say, I mean, it's not my field, but I've heard scientists say, and it makes sense to me, that one place that you cannot, or that you're highly unlikely to contract COVID-19 is at the beach. It's open air, sea breeze, and sunlight, non-enclosed room. You know, it's highly unlikely. Even if you're in the presence of someone with COVID-19, it's highly unlikely that you contracted that, but the beaches are closed.
But the Russia still includes AC rooms with vast amounts of people.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, okay. So, Mr. Mohammed, thanks again for your time, energy. I know you're a busy man. Appreciate the blessings on the podcast. We have to educate the youths again in the future coming up. And again, that's thanks.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure. I want to encourage you to keep up the good work. I've seen some of your material. It's very entertaining.
I appreciate it.
And I look forward to seeing a lot more. And yeah, keep up that great work.
I'm on page 20 in one of the books that you gave me for free that I still appreciate. I just need to let you know that on the podcast. Page 20. That's bear with me.
Oh, so you've got to page 20. So you're reading from the back then?
No.
All right, okay.
But the back of all, right? 2000 is not my partner,
okay.
Right? Okay.